If you have ever found yourself standing in the international aisle of a grocery store, eyes darting between a box of Italian spaghetti and a package of Japanese udon, you have likely felt a moment of culinary confusion. On the surface, the visual similarities are undeniable, leading to the nagging question of whether these are essentially the same food masquerading under different passports. Both are fundamentally elongated strands of unleavened dough, birthed from the marriage of grain and liquid. Both undergo a trial by boiling water before finding their way into a bowl. Both serve as the carbohydrate backbone for 1,000 different sauces, broths, and toppings. It forces us to ask if the distinction between pasta and noodles is merely a semantic trick of geography, or if there is a fundamental chemical and cultural divide that separates a bowl of fettuccine from a bowl of ramen. Today, we are going to strip away the packaging and look at the molecular structure, the ancient history, and the rigid traditions that define these two global staples. From the alkaline salts of the East to the durum wheat fields of the Mediterranean, we are going to uncover the truth about whether pasta and noodles are siblings, distant cousins, or total strangers. To truly understand the difference, we must first look at the very definitions that have evolved over millennia, as the terminology itself offers the first clue to the divergence. The word pasta stems directly from the Italian word for paste, referencing the simple, malleable mixture of flour and water that forms the base of the cuisine. It is a word rooted in texture and consistency. Conversely, the English word noodle has a murkier etymology, likely derived from the German Nudel, or the Latin nodus, meaning a knot. While pasta is a protected designation in Italy with strict legal definitions, the term noodle has become a linguistic catch-all in the West, a broad umbrella that covers everything from rice vermicelli to buckwheat soba to acorn starch glass noodles. However, in the culinary world, these terms are not interchangeable. In the strict Italian tradition, pasta is a specific product of durum wheat, whereas in Asian culinary philosophy, a noodle is defined more by its form and method of eating rather than a singular ingredient. This distinction is the first crack in the facade that they are the same thing, revealing that while pasta is a specific entity, noodles are a vast and chaotic category of diverse creations. The most scientific distinction, and perhaps the most important one for the palate, lies in the grain itself and the molecular magic of gluten. Authentic Italian dried pasta is almost exclusively made from triticum durum, or hard wheat. This is not the soft wheat used to bake fluffy cakes or tender pastries. Durum is the hardest of all wheat species, possessing a high protein content and a golden hue derived from carotenoids. When milled into semolina and mixed with water, it forms an incredibly strong gluten network that allows the pasta to retain its shape and firm texture even after boiling. This is the secret to the Italian obsession with al dente, a phrase literally meaning to the tooth. The goal of pasta is to offer resistance, to fight back against the bite, providing a structural integrity that acts as a physical counterpoint to the sauce. It is not meant to be soft. It is meant to be substantial, a vehicle that holds its own weight. On the other side of the world, the chemistry of the noodle is far more varied and complex, often relying on ingredients that defy the rules of Italian pasta. While many Asian noodles are wheat-based, such as Chinese la mian or Japanese udon, they often utilize soft wheat flours or all-purpose mixes that create a texture focused on elasticity and chewiness rather than hardness. The most fascinating chemical divergence is the use of kansui in ramen and other alkaline noodles. Kansui is a solution of potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate, essentially alkaline salts, which react with the wheat flour to inhibit gluten development in a specific way while turning the flavonoids in the flour yellow. This reaction gives ramen its distinct sulfurous aroma, its yellowish hue, and that signature springy, slippery texture that allows it to survive in hot broth without turning into mush. Beyond wheat, the noodle world expands into rice flour, which contains no gluten at all and relies on gelatinization for structure, creating the silky, delicate mouthfeel of a Vietnamese pho noodle. Then there are starches like mung bean or sweet potato, used to make glass noodles that are chewy and translucent. In this light, pasta is a disciplined study of one specific grain, while noodles are an experimental playground of starches and chemical reactions. The methods of production further widen the gap between these two culinary giants, as the way the dough is handled dictates the final experience on the plate. In Italy, particularly with dried pasta, the process is defined by extrusion. The dough is forced under immense pressure through a die, traditionally made of bronze. This is not a trivial detail. The bronze die is coarse, tearing the surface of the pasta on a microscopic level to create a rough, porous texture. This roughness is intentional engineering, designed to grab onto sauce and hold it tight. A smooth pasta is considered a failure in the Italian eyes because the sauce would slide right off. Asian noodle making, however, is often characterized by kinetic energy and mechanical manipulation that aligns the proteins in different ways. Hand-pulled noodles require a master to twist, stretch, and fold the dough repeatedly, aligning the gluten strands to create a bounce and snap that a machine cannot replicate. Knife-cut noodles involve shaving strips of dough directly into boiling water, creating tapered edges that are soft, while the center remains chewy. The focus here is often on the mouthfeel of the noodle itself, the slip, the slurp, and the bounce, rather than the surface friction required for sauce adhesion. Cooking traditions and the philosophy of consumption reveal the deepest cultural divides, showing us that these foods serve different purposes within a meal. In Italy, pasta is never a side dish, but it is also rarely a soup. It is the primo, the first course, and it is governed by a strict set of unspoken laws. The water must be as salty as the sea to season the pasta from the inside out. The sauce is the star, but the pasta is the stage, and they must be paired with architectural precision. You would never pair a delicate angel hair pasta with a heavy, chunky meat ragu, because the structure cannot support the weight. Conversely, you would not waste a complex, tubular rigatoni on a simple garlic and oil dressing. The marriage of shape and sauce is sacred. In contrast, the Asian noodle is often a complete meal in a bowl, where the distinction between liquid and solid is blurred. Whether it is a bowl of ramen, pho, or laksa, the broth is often prepared for days, carrying the soul of the dish, while the noodle serves as the texture delivery system. The act of eating differs too. The Italian twirl is a method of containment and grace, designed to capture sauce without splashing. The Asian slurp, particularly in Japan, is a functional technique that aerates the noodles, cooling them down as they enter the mouth, while simultaneously enhancing the aroma of the broth through retronasal olfaction. What might be considered rude at a Roman dinner table is a sign of appreciation and gastronomic technique in a Tokyo noodle shop. We cannot discuss these two foods without addressing the elephant in the room, the persistent myth of Marco Polo. For generations, school children were taught that the Venetian explorer traveled to China in the 13th century, discovered noodles, and brought them back to Italy, effectively inventing pasta. Modern historians and archaeologists have thoroughly debunked this romantic notion. While Polo certainly encountered noodles in China and documented them, pasta existed on the Italian peninsula centuries before he was even born. There are records of a boiled dough called itrilla being introduced to Sicily by Arab traders as early as the 9th century. The Greeks and Romans had dishes like lagana, flat sheets of dough that were baked, an ancient precursor to lasagna. However, the origin story of the noodle leans heavily toward the east. In 2005, archaeologists at the Lajia site in northwestern China uncovered an overturned bowl of noodles buried under 10 feet of sediment, perfectly preserved for 4,000 years. These ancient noodles were made from millet, proving that the concept of elongating grain into strands was mastered in China millennia before the rise of the Roman Empire. It suggests that pasta and noodles are likely an example of convergent culinary evolution. Two separate civilizations independently discovering that mixing flour and water creates a cheap, shelf-stable, and energy-dense food source. Despite their separate histories, the modern era has blurred the lines between pasta and noodles through globalization and fusion, creating a new culinary landscape where definitions are constantly challenged. We now live in a world where Italian spaghetti is used in the Philippines to make a sweet, hot dog-laden dish that would baffle a Neapolitan. In Japan, wafu pasta applies Italian cooking techniques to local ingredients, using soy sauce, butter, and seaweed to dress spaghetti. Conversely, trendy restaurants in New York and London serve Italian ramen, utilizing Parmesan rinds to enrich dashi broths. The rise of the instant noodle invented by Momofuku Ando in post-war Japan, has turned the noodle into a global commodity that transcends culture, found in dorm rooms from Milan to Manila. Even the ingredients are crossing over. Gluten-free pasta made from rice or lentils is becoming a staple in Western supermarkets, essentially bringing the composition of Asian noodles into Italian shapes. This cross-pollination proves that while the traditions are rigid, the medium of dough is infinitely adaptable. So when we return to the original question of whether pasta and noodles are really the same, the answer is a nuanced no. They may look alike to the uninitiated eye, and they may share the same basic state of matter, but they are distinct expressions of the cultures that created them. Pasta is a celebration of wheat, a chemically precise product of the Mediterranean climate designed to hold sauce and provide a firm, toothsome bite. It is bound by the laws of tradition and regional identity. Noodles are a broader, more fluid concept, a shape-shifting category that explores the limits of texture, from the slippery and soft to the chewy and elastic, serving as a canvas for the complex interplay of broth, heat, and spice. To say they are the same is to ignore the thousands of years of agricultural history, chemical engineering, and social ritual that separate a bowl of carbonara from a bowl of dan-dan noodles. Ultimately, the real beauty lies not in their similarities, but in their differences. Pasta and noodles do not need to compete for dominance, nor do they need to be collapsed into a single category. They are two separate branches of the same human story, our universal enduring struggle to turn the simple harvest of the field into something that comforts the soul and fills the stomach. Whether you are carefully winding spaghetti around a fork in a Roman trattoria, or pulling a long, continuous strand of longevity noodles from a bowl during the Lunar New Year, you are participating in a ritual that connects you to the history of civilization itself. Both foods remind us that with nothing more than flour, water, and human ingenuity, we can create something timeless. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, perhaps a deep dive into another culinary rivalry or a historical mystery you want uncovered, feel free to share them in the comments below. We will be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution in the future. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into the fascinating backstories of everyday objects, please check out our other bingeable channels.